The next advanced pattern we will discuss is event sourcing. But first, let's look at traditional entities management. In traditional applications, entities are stored in the database, usually as a collection of attributes. When the application needs to update a specific attribute, it simply accesses this attribute and modifies its value. With event sourcing, we handle it differently. When implementing event sourcing, we do not modify attributes of the entity. Rather, we track events related to the entity. Now, you might be having a hard time wrapping your head around this concept, but actually, you can see it implemented in a lot of places around you. The best example of event sourcing is your bank account. Think of your bank account statement. It probably looks similar to this. Now, this is a great example of event sourcing. Note that you don't see here an entity with a few fields with data. What you see here is a list of events that happened to the entity, which in this case is the bank account. Note that you don't see the entity itself. The only thing you see here are the events. Now, bank accounts are only one example. Event sourcing is gaining a lot of traction and is implemented in a lot of use cases. So what are the best candidates for using event sourcing? What are the use cases that scream, implement me using event sourcing? Well, the obvious case is when history matters. If you care not only about your entity state, but also how did it got there, then event sourcing is a natural fit. Using event sourcing, you have a complete view of what happened to a specific entity from the moment it was created, and you can gain a lot of insights from it. But event sourcing is useful also for other types of applications. Let's look at the pros and cons of event sourcing. First, the pros. 1. Tracing. We already talked about it. Using event sourcing, you can track all the events that happened to the entity quite easily. Second, data model. Using event sourcing, your data model becomes extremely simple. No more you need to design complex entities with relationships to other entities. All you need to do in order to get the entity's state is to go through its events and build an ad hoc state of it. Third, performance. In order to change entity's state, all you have to do is add a small record to the data store. That's it. No need to update a lot of tables or enforcing constraints and foreign key. A simple insert statement and you are good to go. Fourth, reporting. A lot of business reports require a history of entities. Using event sourcing, this is a real piece of cake. The history is already built in the data, and all is left is to retrieve it. Okay, so these are the pros. Now to the cons. The most obvious one is that there is not a single unified view of the entity. You want to see the current state of the entity? Then you need to go through the events and build the current state. This could take time and resources. The second disadvantage of event sourcing is storage usage. If an entity has a long history, its events will take a lot of storage space. And when there are a lot of entities with a large history, it might become a problem. So the bottom line is this. Not all applications should use event sourcing, but if you require a strong traceability of your entities and you like the idea of a unified data model, definitely take a look at event sourcing. Our next pattern complements event sourcing and solves some of its drawbacks.